This is an ABC News special report. California's shooting rampage. Now reporting, George Stephanopoulos.
And we are coming on the air right now because we're about to hear from law enforcement officials on the scene in San Bernardino. Right there is Chief Jared Bergwan of the San Bernardino County Police Department. Major new development today. We've learned for the first time that the wife of that couple, Tafshin Malik, did pledge allegiance to ISIS the morning of the attack. I'm here with our chief investigative correspondent, Brian Ross.
They just discovered this in the last 12 to 18 hours. Facebook executives actually saw the posting on Thursday, took it down and notified the FBI shortly thereafter.
Let's listen to the chief.
Address that right now. On Monday night, Tuesday morning before the incident, so November 30th, December 1st, right around midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, there was an incident at the Regal Cinema in downtown San Bernardino at 4th and E Street. And what that case was is that a gentleman that was described as appearing to be Middle Eastern came up and spoke to the security guard around the time the theater was closing. And he was asking the security guard some questions about the movies and times and things like that. But the security guard kind of thought that it was odd. That person ultimately left in a silver Volvo four-door vehicle, 2012, 2013. We do not have a plate. The security guard thought it was weird. Shortly thereafter, the security guard then noticed a red late 90s Dodge Durango driving around the area with another person that was possibly Middle Eastern in appearance that appeared to be taking some photographs in and around the theater. So the security guard took it upon himself, notified our police department. We've gone out that day or that night. We took a report and we put that out in a bolo to every law enforcement every law enforcement agency in the county as just simply some suspicious circumstances that were noted. So that is all we have on that. And then it went into the regular investigative channels and protocols where the local JRIC was notified and they're doing investigative follow-up, looking at video, that sort of stuff, to try to determine if there's a real threat or to see if there's any plates associated with those vehicles. At this point, we have zero connection zero evidence or information that connects that event with what happened here at the Inland Regional Center on Wednesday morning. So I want to make that clear. But as a result of what happened on Wednesday, the San Bernardino Police Department has been basically in a tactical alert type situation, meaning that we have every officer in the department working. We are on 12-hour shifts, so it's a 12 on, 12 off for all of our officers. We'll maintain that until we think it's appropriate to stand down. We don't have any credible information to indicate that there is a threat to this region right now. But I wanted to address that because of some things that came out to imply that we were hiding information. We are not hiding information from anybody, okay? And then lastly, what I want to do right now is this is going to be an official transfer of this investigation in terms of information and how information is going to flow on this to the FBI. We certainly talked a lot about what that partnership is. I want to make it clear that our agency, the Sheriff's Department, the FBI, and the other federal agencies that are involved in this investigation continue to walk shoulder to shoulder in this investigation to make sure that we are doing the best job that we can. But in terms of information regarding the investigation on this incident at the Inland Regional Center, the home in Redlands, the search warrants that have been done, the officer-involved shooting that occurred as a result of this, this is an FBI investigation. They will be the lead on information regarding that. Myself and Sheriff McMahon will still be the lead talking about local safety measures and security. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the Assistant Director in charge of the FBI, Dave Bowditch.
Thank you, Chief. Morning, everyone. First off, I want to stress again to the families of the victims and to the friends of the victims. Let's remember they are first in this scenario. We had victims who lost, one gentleman lost 6 children, one gentleman lost a baby, and he was taking his first trip to Disneyland next week. Other people did not have the chance to have that. Every one of those lives counted, and we want to offer our sincere prayers to those families. Secondly, I want to stress the partnership. You have seen this united front, which is incredibly important for an investigation of this complexity. This is a very complex investigation. It is a very long-term investigation. My partners here from the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department, County Sheriff's Department, the San Bernardino Police Department, and the ATF have been incredibly important in this investigation, and we are lockstep in how we are handling this matter. I do want to go forward today and tell you that as of today, based on the information and the facts as we know them, we are now investigating these horrific acts as an act of terrorism. We have uncovered evidence that has led us to learn of extensive planning. Obviously, we've uncovered evidence of explosive, multiple armaments. You know that. You know the ammunition that was out there, the high-powered weapons, the explosive devices. We are continuing to go down the path to ensure that we find all of the evidence that pertains to this matter. We have also uncovered evidence that these subjects they attempted to destroy their digital fingerprints. For example, we found 2 cell phones in a nearby trash can. Those cell phones were actually crushed. We have retained those cell phones, and we do continue to exploit the data from those cell phones. We do hope that the digital fingerprints that were left by these 2 individuals will take us towards their motivation. That evidence is incredibly important. I want to ensure that everyone understands that just because the FBI has now taken the leadership based on the trajectory of this case, we're not just taking this on our own. We are going to continue down the same path we have been, which is a lockstep operation with these partners. That is important. They are the protectors of this community. We have the mandate to investigate terrorism to its fullest extent. We are working hand in hand with our other federal, local, and state partners. We are also working hand in hand with our foreign counterparts to ensure that we find any connections that pertain to this matter. Next, I'd like to introduce to you that we have established a national task force line, a national hotline that I would like to invite the public to call if they have any information that pertains to this. Now, I would ask the public to please be judicious and make sure that even though if it's small, send it to us. Please do not send us things that are obviously not pertinent to this matter, because we've got a lot of work to do in the future. But if you think in any form or fashion what you have to offer pertains to this matter, please call us and give us that information. It's important. That number is 1-800-CALL-FBI or 1-800-225-5324. Once you reach that number, you can choose option 4, and that will take you to where you need to be in that call tree. I want to ensure the public that your local, state, and federal law enforcement officials will continue to uncover every stone to ensure that we find all the facts that pertain to these 2 individuals. I don't have all the answers now. I am going to take some questions.
How are there other suspects, sir? Are there other suspects that you're looking at?
Sorry.
How are these 2 individuals linked to terrorists?
We don't know all those answers yet.
But can you give us an example of some? Now, it's widely been reported some of the links to terrorism. I'm from CBS News. We've confirmed it with our own law enforcement sources. Communication with people who've been watched here in the U.S., communication with people overseas. What of that are you ready to confirm publicly?
What I'm ready to confirm is there are some telephonic connections between these 2 individuals, at least one of these individuals, and other subjects of our investigation.
Was anything said inside the room during the shooting that led you to believe this was terrorism?
We still don't have the answer to that, but so far the answer is no.
Is there evidence that you were directed by a terrorist organization?
I'm sorry?
Is there evidence they were being directed by ISIS or Al-Qaeda or something like that, or if they were inspired by them?
I don't have the answer to any direction. Were they inspired? We do not yet know the answer. I'm aware of the post that you're going to ask me about that's out on the Facebook, and I'm aware of it. We're looking into it, but we don't know all the answers to that question yet.
Can you confirm the post?
Communication with a terrorist, potentially. You said something.
Yeah, I'm not going to confirm that at this point.
What is the information that you've recovered since yesterday that now moves the dial for you to this was an act of terrorism?
There's a number of pieces of evidence that has essentially pushed us off the cliff to say we are now investigating this as an act of terrorism.
Sir, other suspects?
No, I'm not going to get into that today.
Are there other suspects preliminary investigation previously?
There are no other suspects currently under arrest. It is possible there may be some in the future. We don't know.
Sir, could I ask you about the digital information that you may have found in the home?
Sir?
The computers at the home, can you talk about that? Were they damaged? And also, potentially, for any investigator, how important is potentially information you can find on a hard drive, on a cell phone, in an investigation that now is focusing on terrorism?
Good question. Yes, some of the digital media was damaged, as I discussed before. And yes, that is, we are, as I said from day one, we are continuing to go down the path of what was the motivation for this attack, because that will tell us a lot. As important, if not more important, is are there others, and are they based in the U.S., are they outside the U.S.? We don't know the answers.
With so many
Do you
questions,
have any
why was the
indication
media
that
allowed
there is-
into the apartment? With so many questions still remaining.
Well, because last night, so we executed a search warrant on that apartment, and last night we turned that over back to the residents. Once the residents have the apartment and we're not in it anymore, we don't control it. We did leave a list of items seized that I know some people have, and they're asking why do we give that? We have to give that out by law. We leave, anytime we execute a lawful search warrant, we have to leave for the residents a list that lists all the items seized during that search warrant.
With all the ammunition
ma'am.
that they had, with all the ammunition that they had on them, do you believe they were planning a second attack somewhere?
I don't want to speculate. It's certainly a possibility that we are looking at.
Sir, you believe that this was, where did they get their orders from? Were they acting independently just with the idea that they were doing this for ISIS?
That goes back to the direction question I took earlier. We do not know that, but we are looking very carefully into that.
So do you believe that a big part of this?
Do I believe travel was a big part of
The
this?
overseas travel that he did, a big part of this?
I don't know. He traveled overseas in 2013.
Any kind of money angle where the money came from for this?
Remember, folks, we're in day 3. We're in day 3, and we're barely 2 full days into this. So we'll get there. We're not there yet. Remember, all these resources you see back here, that's why we're utilizing all of those in partnership to try to find every piece of evidence that's out there, from digital media, which should lead us, hopefully, to motivation, to connections via phone, emails, anything like that, to human intelligence that may give us some. That's where we're going, but that takes time. That's not a 3-day process. Yes, ma'am.
Where were the cell phones that you found that they tried to destroy?
I was told they were in a nearby trash can. They were found by our investigators.
There is any indication, someone asked if this, was there a secondary target? Do you believe that this may have not initially been a target? Have you moved forward on your thought process about this?
We don't know. And that's what we hope to build is a working theory, and then ultimately some sort of a design of what we believe they were going to do. But again, day 3, we just don't know.
December 7th is Monday. Do we have any
Pardon me?
reason to believe?
Does this seem to you, are you moving toward the idea that this is a case of self-radicalization?
We don't know yet. It's certainly a possibility, but we do not know yet.
You know about the rifles? Any indication that they were looking at that? There was some reports of that.
We are still exploiting the data. I've not seen it yet. We're still exploiting that, and that will take time. But I truly believe that's going to be the potential golden nuggets, but we just don't know yet.
December 7th is Monday. Do we have any information that there may have been something planned for that particular day, and for some reason it got moved up?
December 7th, you said?
Yes.
Yes, I don't know any reason it was on that day. Remember, there was a Christmas party that took place inside that room. So you had a lot of people, you had a lot of management, you had a lot of people and employees in that room at that point.
Dave, had you been under preliminary investigation, something of a preliminary look by any terrorist agencies like the FBI, JTF, in connection with any prior cases? And if so, what was the result of that? Was he under active surveillance or not under surveillance?
He was not under active surveillance. I am not aware, and I do not believe there was any type of an investigation pending on him.
But did his name come up in connection with a preliminary probe? I'm thinking similar to the Boston bombing and in Sarnia.
Yes, and I don't have any information that indicates that, no.
Has anyone been
complaining about the press being inside the apartment today? There was a man there who became a law enforcement officer who took the landlord away and said he did not, in fact, have permission to let people enter the apartment. The apartment was reboarded up a short time ago. Do you have any concerns about that being entered, even though you're saying you had wrapped up there?
You're going to have to repeat that. I'm sorry.
Do you have any concerns about the press entering the townhome this morning, even though you're saying you had completed your investigation there?
Once we turn that location back over to the occupants of that residence, or once we board it up Anyone who goes in at that point, that's got nothing to do with us.
So you say this is an act of terrorism. Does this mean this is the first time, if you conclude that it's ISIS, this is the first time ISIS has attacked America?
I think you're taking a leap. We're not there. What I am confirming is that we are currently investigating this case as an act of terrorism.
Were they in telephonic communication with people in this country or people in foreign?
Sorry?
Were they in telephonic communication with people here in the U.S. or elsewhere?
We know they were in telephonic conversations with people here in the U.S. I am not aware of all the overseas connections yet. We're working with our foreign partners on that. Yes, ma'am. I can only hear one at a time, guys.
The family and their lawyers question the veracity of the terrorist connection. Is there anything there? What do you have to say to that?
They question the veracity of their locations. Okay, so yes, yeah, good question. Yesterday, I said to you, the FBI is an organization that is apolitical. We are a fact-finding organization, and we deal in facts. I don't have all those facts yet, so I don't know the answer to the question you just asked me.
Can you tell us about the ISIS has claimed responsibility? Do you have anything on this?
Not unusual that they would.
Website, the AMOC, that's their official website where they post all their videos. They've claimed responsibility.
I'm not surprised. I've not heard of that yet, but I'm not surprised if they would claim. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But again, it only helps them to be able to attach themselves to an act like this. I don't know the answer.
The rifles. Is someone detained that gave them the rifles?
There is a person of, we don't know, okay, let me go back on that one. There's some differentiations there. There is a person that we know of their location who purchased those weapons, but I'm going to let ATF answer the questions on the guns because that's what they're here to do.
In custody?
They stopped shooting inside the room.
Person is not under arrest at this point.
So they are in custody, being questioned?
They're not under arrest at this point.
Why do you think they stopped shooting inside that room?
I don't know the answer.
With that Facebook post, did they pledge allegiance to either ISIS or Baghdadi or any other principle connected specifically with any known terror organization?
I'm aware of the Facebook post you're mentioning, and I saw the same thing you did. We don't know what's there yet. We're still continuing to look into that.
Mark Zuckerberg confirms that that post had been made, and that it had been made just as the attack had been starting.
I know it was in a general timeline where that post was made, and yes, there was a Pledge of Allegiance.
Do you know how long they're planning? I'm worried about the dynamic of marriage, because there's a lot of curiosity there, and some people are saying that perhaps the wife may have influenced him. Can you give us any more insight?
I've been asked that, and I don't know the answer, whether she influenced him or not. Being a husband myself, we're all influenced to an extent, but I don't know the answer.
But what you've learned about her, has that influenced your belief more so that this was an act of terrorism as you learned more about her?
We're investigating it as an act of terrorism for good reason.
Have you found any investigation prior to this?
Pardon me?
Had the FBI known of her, aware of her before? Has she been under investigation prior to this?
We did not have her under investigation previously. I'm going to take 3 more questions and then I'm going to end it.
Yes, sir. They were under the radar.
The telephones were found near the center or near the townhouse?
I believe they were found near the townhouse.
Are you concerned that they were flying under the radar?
Pardon me?
Are you concerned that they were flying under the radar? That you didn't know that they were active?
Well, of course I'm concerned. Any one of us would love to have stopped this act. When you go into a crime scene like that, it's one of the most heinous things you'll ever see. It's horrific.
That you had no awareness that you weren't tracking them, that they weren't on your radar.
Of course I'm concerned. We didn't know. There's nothing that we've seen yet that would have triggered us to know.
The government's spending so much
Yes,
money
ma'am.
on surveillance.
Do you believe in the existence of a cell?
Pardon me?
Do you believe in the existence of a cell?
We don't know. What I can tell you is we are not aware of any further threats in the U.S. at this time. And I want to go back to your point, ma'am. You said the government spends a lot of money on surveillance. We are also, the FBI is also a federal law enforcement agency that is bound by federal law. So we don't do wide sweeping, massive surveillance without legal process. Next question. Last question. Yes, ma'am.
Speak to this community who is now listening to this transition that this is indeed an act of terror. What, in practical terms, does that mean for them?
So what I would say, first of all, I think this this community, I'm going to leave that to the chief and the sheriff to deal with and talk about. They are the true protectors of this community. I would say to this community, you've been incredibly resilient. We are with you. We stand by you. We are focused. The FBI's #1 mandate is to protect the homeland from attack, and we will absolutely engage whenever we see potential threats. As the director has said many times, we have a number of terrorism investigations across the country currently that are going on. That does include extensive surveillance. So what I would tell the community, to answer your question completely, is I would tell them, continue to do what you do. If you see things that are concerning, push them up to local law enforcement immediately. If they rise to a certain level, or if you want to push it to both the FBI and local law enforcement, feel free to do that. These are your protectors. But do as you do normally. Go about your day. Do not let this cause mass hysteria. We're not there. We're not there at all. We have a long-term, very complex investigation that we have to complete. And that's going to take time and a lot of energy and a lot of hours and a lot of agency expertise. But I assure the American public, we will do everything in our power within the law to get that done. Thank you for your time. Next, I would like to introduce Sheriff John McMahon.
Thank you, Dave. Very good question, and that's why we're here today. My primary responsibility and the primary responsibility of the law enforcement leaders you see behind me is to ensure the safety of the public that we serve. You've already heard there's apparently evidence to suggest that there's a terrorist connection to this event. We have no known credible threats to the communities that we serve. I would ask that the community remain vigilant. Don't hesitate to report any suspicious activity to the local law enforcement. We have added additional resources, as had my partners from law enforcement that stand behind me, to ensure that we have the staff necessary to investigate and to protect the communities that we serve. We have nothing to suggest there's anything additional associated with this event, but we remain partnered up with the law enforcement from the FBI, ATF, Homeland Security, and that if any threats come about that appear to be credible or not, we will fully investigate those to help ensure that the public that we serve is absolutely safe. I will echo what Dave Bowditch suggested, that this is a team effort. We all have to work together as a team to address situations of this magnitude. We remain committed to working with the FBI, our local partners, as well as our federal partners, to ensure that the resources that are needed are applied to make sure we investigate everything possible and keep the citizens that we serve safe. Thank you.
Sheriff, isn't the concern, though, that there was no credible threat or known credible threat in advance, and then this occurred, and so now we're back to an environment where there's no known credible threat, and could San Bernardino or any other town in the country be facing the same kind of thing happening an hour from now?
Certainly that's the possibility, but crimes across our county and across our state oftentimes occur without any notice. You saw how the men and women of this law enforcement agency, as well as the partners that we work with in our region, performed 2 days ago. Considering how they performed and addressed the issue, I truly believe that we are prepared to deal with whatever threat or incident occurs. Law enforcement is staffed up, as I suggested. Our local law enforcement leaders remain in constant contact with one another. And as I suggested, my top priority, as well as those that stand behind me, is the safety of the public that we serve. Thank you.
Sheriff, on the townhome, Redlands Chief, do you have jurisdiction over the townhome, and have you sealed the townhome?
There you have it right there from the Assistant Director of the FBI in Los Angeles. This is being treated now as an act of terrorism, being investigated as an act of terrorism. A lot of new information in that press conference right now. Brian Ross, the chief said there were a number of pieces of evidence that pushed this off the cliff towards investigating as an act of terror. Right.
In addition to the huge arsenal, the advanced planning, he cited two things. One, the pledge of allegiance to ISIS by the wife there who went into the shooting. We're told it happened just moments after the attack, literally moments after the attack. She went on Facebook to pledge allegiance. In the last 12 hours, the Facebook executive spotted this, took it down, and notified the FBI. And the FBI assistant director also said they've picked up evidence of telephonic communications between one of the shooters and several terror suspects known to the FBI.
Let me take that to our senior justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas, in Washington. What will the FBI do now? I know you're waiting for the FBI director, Mr. Comey, to speak as well, but what will the FBI do now to track through all those telephonic connections, knowing that some of those cell phones were, as the assistant director said, crushed?
They are undergoing an extensive review by their computer forensics analyst, George. That is a top priority. You heard the assistant director talk about that. Also, they have sent some of these pieces of these phones and the hard drive to Quantico. They have an extensive lab in Quantico, Virginia. But George, one key thing that came out of that press conference today, these two people, these two suspects, were not on the FBI's radar. And the FBI director has been warning for some time about the potential that ISIS, through a social media campaign, would influence people inside the United States to, as he said, quote, kill, kill, kill. The notion that these people were not under FBI investigation in any form is a serious issue.
It sure is. The LA director said they were not under active surveillance, not under investigation. A couple of other key questions there, Brian Ross. Many questions about the gentleman who bought the guns, the long rifles, for the couple. The assistant director said he's not under arrest, leaving up the suggestion that he is being questioned.
That's right. This is somebody, they know who it is. They've been looking for him. He suggested that person is under custody now, being questioned. He said he's not under arrest yet.
Also investigating an incident on Monday night where it appeared that a movie theater was being cased in some fashion.
Right. Security guards there became suspicious of a man who described as Middle Eastern descent, who asked about showtimes, etc. And then he saw that same man in a different vehicle, he said, essentially casing the movie theater. No known connection to what's happened, and this could just be a case of jitters, but it's the kind of thing they urge people today to report to local police if there are any suspicions.
Just before this press conference, the extraordinary scene at the house where this couple was living. Reporters were let inside with cameras, including our own Matt Gutman. Matt, tell us about it.
It was remarkable indeed, George. Just inside that house, holes were punched through. And you walk in, glass was shattered, strewn on the floor. In the kitchen, you could see that a meal looked like it had just been cooked. Further into the living room, there was bedding on a couch, more broken glass, and of great interest to the FBI of what they had taken out, boxes of ammo. In addition to that, invoices. Upstairs, you could see that baby's crib. You could see a computer area nearby. That is something of great importance. A printer nearby as well. The guts of the computer were taken out. FBI obviously trying to go through that. You see a prayer rug on the floor. There were also prayer books all over the house. No other books that we took notice of. Again, you see a closet. There are clothes inside. It seemed like the house of an ordinary family just living. Obviously, all the things to interest of the FBI were taken out, like ammo. Everywhere you look inside that house, you see evidence of a family living a normal life, at least now. Suitcase opened up with bedding inside. It was not the type of place that looked like the den of terrorists. It seemed that in that nursery, that the parents took great care of their child. There are plenty of toys around, but of course that belies the truth of what we know happened inside, all that ammo and all those bombs.
Nursery in one room, stockpile in another. Just remarkable. And, you know, one other thing we should say that the assistant director said that they had no control over that house today. Once they turned it over to the residents, once they had taken everything they needed under the search warrant, they had no control over that house. We're going to continue to follow this, monitor the FBI director's press conference coming up in just a little bit. And, of course, David Muir will be on the scene tonight for World News in San Bernardino. I'm George Stephanopoulos.
This has been a special report from ABC News.